Mithen's got it! Unbelievable!
Episode 5 of Lil and Ben, unfortunately back in lockdown and via Zoom, but Lil Mithen, I still get to see your face. How are you going in lockdown?
Yeah, good, Ben, and nice to see you in a new place. We usually see you on that big comfy chair, but change of location, it looks good.
Comfy chair is upstairs, but no, change of location going well. NBN sorted yesterday, which was a massive win for lockdown. Our special guest today is none other than Sarah Lampard. Sarah, welcome to the Lil and Ben podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on, actually. You guys had me on last year and got the call up again, so thanks for having me.
Very deserving. We needed you.
Yes.
Shelley Heath last week, she brought a few chuckles but didn't say a lot, so we're hoping you'll expand a little bit more than what we got last week. You did return to the side, which was great, and people are calling it the best game of AFLW ever. Lil, thoughts on that?
Yeah, lots of people had those sorts of comments, which was, great feedback. I thought, personally, it was a highly skilled game, lots of scoring, which fans love to watch. But, yeah, I think it's just how North and we play. We play a very similar brand of footy, so it just put a really great display of women's footy on show.
You told me after the game you had a few texts on your phone waiting for you. Some of your teammates did as well. What did they read?
Yeah, my phone blew up. My family group chat, obviously because it was so close, they were extremely stressed. There was lots of videos being sent of my niece jumping around like a little crazy person on the couch. But I think the one that took the cake was Daisy. Daisy showed me a text message thread that probably had about 8 consecutive text messages. It was the first ever text she'd ever received from this person. I said, Daisy, who is this? It was her ex-boyfriend's brother's girlfriend's father, who had continuously texted her going, wow, that was a great play. Great smother, Daisy. Wow, Mithen, she's a smart player. Tyler Hanks, she is so clean. Understand you're not going to be reading these because you're playing, but just thought I'd keep you up to date with my thoughts. Wow, I'm on the edge of my seat. This is such a great game. And then the final one, great win.
I guess everyone was watching because people were stuck in lockdown. Did you have any messages waiting for you, Sarah?
Oh, a couple, same updates at halftime telling us how good we're going, and then towards the end of the fourth quarter kind of telling us to pick up our game a bit. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun to be a part of. I'm assuming you felt the same way, Lil, but, yeah, good quality match, highly skilled. It didn't feel too far out of the ordinary for us because I guess we're used to training that way, but it was good to actually put 4 quarters of effort together and play that way, especially in the second quarter as well.
I think from my perspective, obviously beating a side like North, it gave me a glimpse of what a premiership would be like. And I know players don't like talking about premierships because you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. But surely, like, everyone's playing to win the flag. Sarah, I'm not going to go to Lil because she always gives me a straight bat and just a nice shot through the covers. But surely you just think a little bit about a premiership.
Well, we literally can't think too far ahead because we have to take it 1 week at a time. Like, we only know that we play the Dogs this week, so we focus on the Dogs. And then, like, further forward, like, we don't know who we're playing. So would love a premiership, but don't know what that looks like going forward.
You trained Sarah before this podcast?
Yeah, I did. I was expecting her to say just 1 week at a time, but she missed that cue.
I think she has
Roundabout.
It was a strange one because post-game, the girls were absolutely buzzing and I was waiting outside the rooms for the team meeting to grab Maddie Gay for an interview, and then there was a complete shift in emotion when the girls walked out. That was when everyone found out about Shay Sloane's news, the 3rd ACL, which in just over 2 years, which is just terrible news. Sarah, you spent a lot of time with her. It must have been a hard one to hear.
Yeah, it was, especially seeing how hard she worked through last year and the year before. Yeah, it was really hard to take. Super proud of the work she's done to this point, and she's had a really positive attitude since Saturday. But, yeah, it's really unfortunate for Shay.
It was your comeback game, so on a more positive note, it was your second ACL that you were returning from. Was it, I guess, all good signs out there, no little hiccups, just enjoying being back playing footy?
Yeah, I felt super comfortable out there and was supported nicely with my backline career down there. But, yeah, it was great being back. It's felt like a very quick 11 months since I did it, but also at the same time a very long 11 months. But yeah, it was great to be back out there again.
In those 11 months, Lampy, you got super strong. You hired a rehab coach, but looked very much like a weightlifting coach. You put on a bit of size. Take us through the whole weightlifting journey through the rehab process.
Yeah, so a couple months in, I started seeing a trainer, Simon, who taught me how to Olympic lift. So I didn't really know what Olympic lifting was heading into that, but essentially it was 2 lifts that I learnt. So it was like a clean, which is like you lift the bar up to here, and then there was like a snatch where you lift it up over your head, which I like lifting weights up to that point and did all my gym stuff, but I got hooked on this through ISO and all the intricacies of doing it. Got a pair of weightlifting shoes actually for my birthday during ISO.
Wow.
I really took it to another level, but yeah, it was a good way to test out my knee because it made me have to bend low, so get a lot of flexion through my knee, but then also a lot of plyometrics through my knee. So it was good for my rehab, but also kept it really interesting over the break.
Did you get the weightlifting gloves? I've seen Bano whip out the weightlifting gloves in the gym. What are your thoughts on those? I'm not into it, that's for sure.
I'm more of a chalk girl myself, but no, I never got into the gloves.
You're also working on a project with Brooke Patterson, Prep to Play. Can you talk us through what that's all about? Brooke's obviously an ex-player and a development coach at the club.
Yeah, so Brooke used to be my teammate, now my coach, and now also my boss. And we have Libby Birch working on the project as well. So the project's all about minimising head and knee injuries in women's community football. So at the moment, we're actually recruiting under 16s to under 19 junior teams and senior women's teams as well across the state. And we're going to help them implement an injury prevention program. So if anyone is listening at the moment, feel free to give us a call or hit me up and I'll get you involved. But we actually got Lily's old team, Newtown, involved last week. They were super keen to be involved and now they're on board as well. So thanks, Lil.
Yeah, shout out to the Towners. Great club, always getting involved. I'm super glad you reached out to them. It's great to have good people involved in a great project.
Fantastic. We love plugs on this podcast. Sarah, I want to know what you studied at uni. Can you give us that one?
Yeah, so I did a Bachelor of Science, finished at the start of last year, and I'm just about to go back next week to do a Masters of Public Health. So still not sure how that's going to fit into my schedule, but I'm sure in the next week I'll sort it out.
Will you specialise in pandemics and fixing them?
I couldn't think of anything worse. But hopefully I'll steer away from that and go more into like disease and epidemiology.
I'd like to know what that has to do with wine tasting, because I'm told that one of your subjects was just about tasting wine.
Yeah, so with my uni degree, we had to do Brett subjects, so essentially just electives. And some people chose to do just more science subjects, or on the other hand, you could choose just completely different subjects altogether. So I think there was classes like guitar and like bongo drums, stuff like that. But yeah, in my last semester, I chose to do wine tasting. So literally we'd just go into class every week. They'd lay out 6 glasses in front of us and we'd just have a bit of a sip. So obviously being a professional athlete, I wasn't sculling them, wasn't necking them. I was just having a taste, putting it on the palate and then spitting it out. But yeah, it was good. Opened my eyes up a bit. Well-rounded person for it.
And yeah, because you're a great student, so no doubt you're getting drunk before class and then, trying to belt out some work. But you were also a student alongside Paddy McKenna, our backline coach. Can you tell us about going to school with Paddy Mac and what he was like?
Yeah, so I went to school with Pat McKenna and Maddie Gay also went to our school as well. When I was in year 11, Pat was in year 12 and we did the same bio class together. So I think that year he was also the captain of the Australian junior cricket team or something like that. So he actually wasn't in class too often because I think he was away in India that year for a bit. But he was a very, very smart guy back then, still is.
Please. As if you'd call, you can't give him that kind of credit. He's a nice guy, but I don't know if he's a smart guy.
Nah, he's my backline coach, so I have to pump him up.
Yeah, true. Keep pumping him up. Yeah.
One thing you two have in common is you both live with teammates. Lil, obviously, with Kate. We see a lot of you two together. Sarah, you live with Casey Sheriff, but I don't know if you do live with her, to be honest, because I've asked you for help about what Casey's like as a person. You've given me nothing. We never see you talking. You don't know anything about each other. Do you actually spend any time together?
To be fair, Casey spends a lot of time down in Traralgon, back in her hometown, and I spend a lot of time in Torquay with my parents. But we do live together, and she has just bought a dog, so I will become friends with her now and hope to learn a bit more about Casey. But no, she's a great gal, and we get along pretty well.
Do you think it's worth paying rent, or should you just end the lease agreement now?
Well, for a while there, I was wondering why Casey was still paying the bills, but you know, I'm not going to ask too many questions.
Fair enough.
One more crucial one before we get to a break, and then we reveal our very special guest. Sarah, I've heard you have a second Instagram account. This is called S Lampard 2.0. It's got 46 plus 30 followers. On the description, this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'm not one of the 30 followers. Can you give us any sort of insight into what those 46 posts have been about?
Yeah, some absolute garbage. I often forget that I've got that second account. I think I've forgotten the password for it. Lily, I think, might be a follower for it, so she's probably got more insight than I do, but yeah, not great, not good content.
I did just have a little look. There was lots about an MP in Sunbury and lots about the local council always watching you. I don't know if that's some sort of conspiracy theory or what's that's about, but any word from you?
Well, I grew up in Sunbury, and at the time of this Instagram account, I was living in Sunbury, and there must have been an election coming up. I can't remember what was going on, but like in my court in Sunbury, there was posters like facing out of the window, so it just felt like he was always there. But I kind of made a joke about it on this Instagram page, and then I think the next day I was down at the local cafe in Sunbury, which was only really one good one. And this whole stampede of these people supporting this politician were like charging down Main Street, Sunbury, with all these like faces. Like it started off as a joke and a pretty bad one, but yeah, it was a weird time. So might go away and delete that Instagram page now.
Great idea.
All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll get our special guest on right after this.
Thanks to our co-principal partner and podcast sponsor, Zurich Insurance. For over 100 years, they've been insuring the people and things you truly love. And just like you, they truly love footy and they truly love the D's.
Welcome back to Lil and Ben. Now, we thought we needed a bit of a ratings boost, and so we went straight to the top. We've got the head of women's football, Nicole Livingstone, probably the biggest celebrity we've been in company with, Lil. And Nicole, thanks for some of your time. I'm sure you're very busy, but what's a day in lockdown look like for the big boss of the AFLW?
If you're calling me the biggest celebrity you've had on, you haven't tried very hard, clearly, because Lily knows everyone. Her little black book is just filled to the brim. Thanks for having me on. Lockdown. I have a year 8 student, so you might hear some yelling in the background soon, and that's him yelling saying, I don't want to do this. But yeah, we've been working from home for a while now, like most businesses, so it'll be nice to get back into the office, but of course we do what we need to do to be able to protect our community. So I know you guys are doing the same thing. We're pretty well set up.
I hope your lockdown day is looking like organising a fixture. We got any hints around 5? Who are we going to play? Tell us anything. I did make you wait a few minutes. That's because I was just processing all of your fixturing requests, Lily. Unfortunately, I can't get to all of them. But as you know, it has been a week-to-week scenario for us with the various border closures and reactions to corona positives around the nation that we've had to deal with. So our number one priority is to make sure that we protect the health and safety of you guys, both club players, but also the broader community as well. So I have to say that the North Melbourne game on the weekend was my favourite game of women's footy to watch so far. And actually, I probably shouldn't say that because the 53,000 at the grand final in 2019 was pretty incredible as well.
But the standard that you guys presented, I love your tenacity, Lil, the fact that you just keep going in and going in and going in. But that game was incredible, I guess, to play under the whir of generators under lights at Casey, as opposed to a crowd that was maybe buffering the sound of the generators, was a disappointment. But the fact that we could get those games away was really important for us. So we've now got 21 of our matches away of 63 home and aways, and we're just going to keep plugging away.
The quality of that game was amazing. We've got the Bulldogs this weekend, which is, in a sense, the pioneer game all the way back in 2013. Did you think, it's only been 8 years, but in such a short amount of time, the game would come so far?
Well, I mean, the Melbourne Western Bulldogs Foundation game, the exhibition game, is the reason that we're able to sit here and talk about AFLW as a professional sport, 5 years on. To go from having 7,500 people watching the first year in 2013 to subsequent years having 25,000, 30,000 people coming to watch women's football. I mean, that was the impetus for Gil to announce in 2015 that we were moving ahead of schedule in 2017 for a National Women's Football League.
We might have to make the Dogs D's game a permanent fixture for the opening round. Do you reckon you could pull a few strings and make that happen, Nicole?
Well, I mean, rivalry round is really important, and whilst it's not tagged as a rivalry round, we do traditionally try to look at those kind of rivalries. Carlton Collingwood is clearly another one that has captured the imagination of both men's and women's football in previous years, but certainly the Bulldogs and Melbourne game is one that we love. You play for a cup, and I think that is one of the only a couple of matches that you actually play for a trophy, and that's reserved because of the exhibition status of that game and the reason it was so important to women's football.
One of the players in that initial game was Daisy Pearce. Now, we had Shelley Heath on the podcast last week, and when she was in Year 9, she wrote a story about Daisy Pearce. None of us knew who she was back then, but she predicted Daisy Pearce to be the biggest thing in sport. She's absolutely bang on. Did you know at that age that Daisy Pearce was going to become the face of the game?
Well, I think there was a group of pioneering women that really captured the imagination of sports lovers. I mean, women have always been here. They've always been participating and competing in sport, but the elite status of a game or a sport has not always been open to women. And I think players like Daisy were the ones that really put the world on notice, put Australia on notice that Australian football is something that women can play and can play really well. Daisy from that first game was dominant and was instrumental in leading the D's into some pretty epic clashes against the Bulldogs in those exhibition games. So I reckon, along with Daisy and I think about even back then the image of Taylor Harris, with her kick, was certainly something that came out of one of the later exhibition matches as well. So, Daisy it feels like she's been with us forever, and she's continuing to pioneer. And again, seeing her form in round 3 against North and, diving across players' feet to smother the ball. I mean, she hasn't lost anything, has she?
She definitely hasn't. And if we went to a hub, Daisy's probably one of the few people I'd like to be in a room near, because obviously with the twins screaming babies, I would hate that. Nick, any update on hubs? And if we do, can you just make sure I'm requesting now that I'm nowhere near Daisy and Ben and the twins?
Well, I actually just got a text message from Daisy. She actually requested you specifically in her room that you could act as a night nanny for her. How do you feel about that, Lil?
Oh, that's good. As long as they give me cute little cuddles, those twins are pretty cute.
We are not using the H word in women's football. We don't use the hub word. And I think if you think about what happened last year with the men's game, with hubs and bubbles, and we've heard the Premier of Victoria say the virus of 2020 is not what we're dealing with in 2021. So one of the things that we are trying to do, because you guys are part-time in nature and you have other work that you are trying to also fulfill, is that we're trying to have minimal disruption. So we've already seen a couple of teams that have relocated. So we use the R word, relocated, for a period of time. And we're hoping that is sort of as far as we get to in the home and away in terms of interrupting your life. It is difficult. It's difficult to plan from a sports administration point of view with, borders that can change in 6 hours notice. And not only are we thinking about the game that you have on the weekend, we also have to then retrospectively look at who you've played, where they've been and who they've played, and whether or not that makes them, COVID safe, or if there's, some COVID restrictions that we need to put in place. So, you look at the Brisbane Lions-Eagles game, the reason that was put on a Monday was looking back retrospectively at some of those border closures and who we could keep COVID safe in playing to then continue the team into the competition. It is so complex. It's I said to someone the other day, it's like a game of Tetris without the easy levels. They're just flying at you. Somebody said to me the other day, it's like Jumanji level 15 that we're dealing with. But yeah, it has to have a lot of thought in terms of the consequences of even just playing a single match.
Yeah, gosh, there's a lot to think about, isn't there? But yeah, it would be a lot of fun to be in a hub. I imagine there'd be endless table tennis, but on the other hand, though, I'm thinking of a couple of teammates I wouldn't want to be stuck in a hub with. Meg Downey comes to mind, a lot of questions. Also, KB Crystal Petrovsky talks a lot. Would be, if we're in there for a while, it would be pretty taxing.
I lived at the Institute of Sport for 8 years. So, in the first few years we were in a residence that, had eight to 10 women in the same, and we had to share bathrooms and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you do learn who you want to hang out with and who maybe you don't want to spend so much time with for your own headspace.
You learn experience for sure.
Earlier in this podcast, Nicole, we spoke about Sarah Lampard having 2 Instagram accounts. So I'm not sure quite what was going on there. There's a bit of social media trolling with AFLW. Honestly, have you ever created a burner account? Would you ever make a little second account and just get back at a few people if you get the chance?
No, that's... I look for my own children's burner account. So, Sarah, I'm sure your parents are impressed that you've now outed yourself to have a burner account. No, I mean, I don't go on Twitter so much these days because of the trolling. Although I do, and I'm probably provoking it, I do feel like there's been a little less of that's taken place from an administration point of view. I think people can clearly see the effort that we're trying to make desperately to protect AFLW, to get the season away and to get it to completion. So, I don't know, it's such a difficult environment, isn't it? You're not always going to have everybody that likes you. But, you've got to be a bit Teflon coated. Having said that, if it's inappropriate, then it's inappropriate, right? So the clubs have a setup to be able to support players. We have a setup to be able to support players, and it's really important that we are protecting our AFLW players from any of that stuff.
Well, Nicole, really appreciate your insights. We're going to let you go. I'm sure you've got a fixture to plan and a lot of important things to do. So thanks very much for joining us on Lil and Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Great to hear from Nicole Livingstone, probably our biggest guest yet. We're going to move ahead to Fine of the Week. Lil, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Fine of the Week is nominated to Tyler Hanks this week. She got to the game on Saturday a little bit stressed, and a few people were asking, Hanks, are you okay? And she wasn't. She was clearly rattled, and she was rattled because she'd only received her negative COVID test result back at about 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. We were required to be at the ground at 5:10, and she reckons she can wait till 3:10 to get the all clear to come to the game. If she hadn't received it, we would have had to omit her from the game and bring an emergency in. So that's just not good enough from Hanksy to get a test so late and leave us all stressed, because if we didn't have Hanksy, I don't know if we would have had 4 points. So, Hanksy, take a good hard look at yourself and get your COVID test done earlier, because no one wants that stress in their life.
Didn't affect her performance. 23 disposals. She went very nicely.
She did.
This weekend, another big game against a side in pretty good form, the Western Bulldogs, down at Footscray, 3:10, our first Sunday afternoon game of the year. But the real question is, will we still be in lockdown? So will fans be allowed to attend? Will next week's podcast be via Zoom? Lil, yes or no? Will we be in lockdown after Wednesday night?
I'm going to be optimistic and say we're out of it. I want fans at the ground. I want to train in a big group. I want to see you in person. Come on, Dan, let us out.
Sarah, thoughts?
Let
Let
us
us
out.
out.
Yeah, glass half full. I reckon we'll be out. I reckon it'll be a big Sunday afternoon down at Whitten Oval. Plenty on the hill watching the game.
Love the sounds of that. Lil, have you got a word for this week?
The word is lockdown. It's quite fitting. We're in lockdown.
Love that. Girls, great to chat to you. I'll hopefully see you next week.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben.
Lampy.
Thanks for having me.
Good work, Dan.